I promise you I was not planning to start the show the way I am going to, but something just happened. I was procrastinating right before starting to record this, and something happened that was one of the more memorable experiences of my life. So in a minute or two we'll talk about what I was planning to talk about, which is some what I think are fresh ideas on how to get more done. But I was out on my deck, and I was pruning a geranium, the dead branches. And all of a sudden I see a little bit of white insulation, like pillow insulation, pillow filling maybe. And then I see a little bit of lint, and I see that there's probably an abandoned nest. And then I feel, or see, I guess both, the nest move. And then I see a squirrel, a fat squirrel, leaving. I pull up more of the insulation, and there were 6 newborn baby squirrels. I feel terrible because I worry that the squirrel smelling my skin on the insulation will keep the mommy from coming back. The older, when I was younger, this miracle of birth and the birth-death cycle didn't really penetrate my consciousness very much, certainly not emotionally. But as I get older, even if they're squirrels, and my squirrels, I breed roses, and I develop new varieties of roses, and they're sitting little seedlings, and apparently the squirrels eat them. I see them getting dug up by them and by birds. But I certainly wouldn't disturb that nest, let alone try to exterminate them. Any case, I don't know why I'm telling you that. It just it reminds me of the primacy of life, human and otherwise, the miracle of birth and of motherhood. Anyway, okay, now somehow even what I'm planning to talk to you about is very important to me, and I think to all of us. That is, getting more done. It's key to life well led. It somehow feels dwarfed in importance compared to what I just described somehow. But I shall be good, and we'll get back down to it. Why do I care so much about getting more done? And maybe it will help you care more about getting stuff done. This is particularly of use to people who tend to be procrastinators or waste a lot of time. I guess if I'm really honest, it's simple. I'll start basically. It feels good to get things done. You feel productive. It feels good to cross things off the to-do list. You're feeling responsible. Makes me feel worthwhile, even though I'm well aware that in the larger scheme of things, 7.8 billion people on the planet and billions who have preceded me and who have lived and died before me, we all come and go, and very few of us make much of an enduring difference. And whether I clean up my house or write yet another article or give yet another YouTube, yes, it may help some people, but in the larger scheme of things, I'm humbled by the realities of that I'm a speck on this earth in a blink of an eye in history's time. But it does make me feel worthwhile to keep being productive all the time. So that's a key driver for me. I also, believe it or not, it's fun. I gamify it. I actually, and this will make me seem very odd, but I actually try to make the most of every few seconds. Everything I do, I try to say, what's the most efficient way I can do that? Well, it'd be fun. Well, it would be fun to see how quickly can I do this without, impeding the quality too much. So that's just a little game. I go through life with that, and it's kind of fun. So I'll ask you, now, why would you care to be more productive? Anything of those things that I said? Either that it feels good to get stuff done. Also, just in case you've got a gap in your time, rather than sitting and thinking. That's the other thing. I end up, I tend to be a worrywart, and so if I'm not busy, I think about issues that worry me, either personal issues or family issues or societal issues, and ultimately, if there's nothing I can do something about, it's just it's a waste. So it feels good to get stuff done. It's distracting from any worries. It makes me feel worthwhile, even though in the larger scheme of things, I'm fairly trivial. And it's intrinsically fun. It's by gamifying how quickly can I get it done consistent with the appropriate level of quality that particular task requires. How about you? Is there anything in what I said or something else that could motivate you to want to get more done? Okay. Now, how do I do it? As I thought about that, and I paced my room thinking about how do I go about getting myself to stay so motivated to keep getting stuff done all the time? I think most foundational for me, it's non-negotiable. I don't make it a choice each time whether I'm going to be, get stuff done or zone out. I mean, yes, of course there are times every night. Frankly, now amid the pandemic, my wife and I sit in the cocoon and we binge watch our favorite series, which right now are All Things Great and Small on PBS, as well as Cranford on PBS, and as well as Call the Midwife on PBS. These are all British masterpiece things, which I tend to love. They're very well made, beautiful. Anyway, so except for those times, I make it non-negotiable. I just have to do it. It's not a choice. And if you make it non-negotiable, it's easier, because otherwise you're just too tempted to literally or metaphorically get a burrito. What else do I do? How do I do it? Well, I'll be specific. For example, my morning routine. I use that gamified how to make it efficient. I have a routine that keeps getting refined and refined to be more efficient and pleasurable, so that it takes me less and less time to get ready in the morning. I won't bore you with the details, but I keep refining my shower ritual, my breakfast making ritual, my getting dressed ritual, my giving attention to the dog ritual. Actually, the giving attention to the dog ritual gives rise to another technique I use, which are called micro breaks. I love hugging my doggie, giving him belly rubs, but I do it for 30 seconds. I don't let 30-second breaks turn into long ones, except when I consciously choose to. Like, for example, I love to multitask, and I think it gets a bad rap. So Hachi and I, every day, take a 45-minute hike to the Trader Joe's, do our shopping. That gets him on empty. I do my shopping, I get my exercise, and importantly, I always bring my little memo. It's not in my pocket now, but I have this little flip note, this memo pad, and I bring a thorny problem to think about, an upcoming client, something I want, if I'm going to be talking to you or writing something, whatever, any kind of problem that's not just empty ruminating, but where there could be a solution. So I love multitasking, and so I build that in to make it happen. I love to eat, and yet perhaps paradoxically, I have figured out ways to use that ultra efficiency orientation, that gamification of how can I do it quickly, to make things that are really fast and yet yummy and healthy and not expensive. Frankly, even though I can afford expensive, some of the very best stuff, healthiest, tastiest, cost very little. I'll just briefly outline my typical day. In the winter, I would have just Quaker oatmeal with a handful of a little trail mix that I make combining. I go to Trader Joe's and I get sweetened cranberries, sweetened coconuts, and unsalted walnut bits. I mix them in one bag, and I just simply take a handful and throw it into the oatmeal, and so in 1 minute I have a healthy, a healthy breakfast. My typical lunch is a tuna salad or chicken salad or egg salad on lettuce with on lettuce and then with a tomato and a pickle and a piece of bread, my favorite bread, whatever. It's store-bought. I don't feel the time is worth it to bake bread. So I get just one of my favorite breads, which again at Trader Joe's, I don't make separate stops at bakeries so that everything is efficient. Typical dinner would be to broil a piece of chicken or steak, another salad, microwaved vegetables, well spiced, both the Parmesan cheese I sprinkle over the vegetables, or garlic powder or onion salt or some combination, soy sauce, and I carefully spice my meat. That's again, doesn't take long to make, and then I might have frozen yogurt with a piece of fresh fruit and season, whether it be peaches or bananas, and in almost no time I've saved hours and hours and hours of cooking, and I'm eating really well and healthy. It's not that I don't cheat. I happen to love pizza, so I have my favorite pizza again at Trader Joe's. They have a wonderful pesto pizza that I love, and I will have that periodically. But all that takes no time. It takes 8 minutes for it to cook in the oven, to bake in the oven. So I'm very efficient by being very conscious of saving time. I'm also extremely conscious of being time effective with my clients. I'm a career counselor, personal coach, so I don't know what the hell I am, somewhere in between there. Rather than the typical counselor who has people for the first session or two kind of just have an introductory session getting to know you, I have, over my 30 years doing this, continually refined a rather probing new client questionnaire that I have the client complete at home and email me at least an hour or two in advance of the session. And then I carefully review it, think about it, and use it to plan the session so that we can really hit the ground running. I know the client a hell of a lot better having read that new client questionnaire than having to listening to them for a session or two introducing themselves, where we all don't remember as well what gets said flows in here, what out the other. But if it's there in writing, they have a chance to reflect on their thoughts on these questions in advance, which is great, and I get a chance to read and reflect and think about what they're saying before we even have our first session. That is an amazingly efficient use of time. Then I have various games that I play with my clients that are fun, they're gamified, but they're very efficient. So for example, if I'm doing a broad career exploration with them, one of the techniques I use is something called the Optometry Game. And I simply say, like at the optometrist, you're always asked, do you see better with lens 1 or lens 2? And after a while you can't tell and you feel stupid, and they laugh. And I explain that that's really what's called the method of successive approximations. It's like a branching computer. You narrow down. It's like the game of hot and cold. You get warmer and warmer each time. Well, I'm going to tell you 2 careers, and you simply tell me which feels better. That's easy. It's something everybody can do. But what I am is essentially a human computer branching program, and we narrow in gradually. It's a highly efficient approach to identifying prospective careers. Another game I play is called the Lawyer Game. This is especially when I want to be sure that I get my input without the client feeling like I'm controlling them. So I'll say, I will play a lawyer, I will be lawyer number 1, and I'll give all the reasons why you should do career A, for example. And then I'll turn into the opposing lawyer. I'll give all the arguments for why you should choose career B, and you be the judge and you tell me who wins and why. Highly efficient way to have my input while allowing the client to not feel railroaded at all. And I really do the best job I can to argue for both sides. My third game I play, which is I always worry about whether my client's going to do his or her homework. So after we've collaboratively created a homework assignment, I say, let's pretend we're in Vegas, and we could bet whether you would or you wouldn't do your homework. Should we bet on you or against you? Whatever they say, I then say, what would the odds be? Would it be even money? Would it be 2-1 against, 2-1 in favor, 5-1, 10-1? If it's anything less than 10-1, I then say, what could we do to make the chances of you doing your homework 10-1? And they'll often say, change the homework, help me do this, let me check in, or whatever. And that's a very simple game that enables us to do that enormous efficiency of getting the client to do their homework, which is crucial to their making progress. That's why the average client sees me only 3 or 4 times. I have clients who I've seen over the decades. They see me kind of like a dentist. They see me twice a year for a tune-up. But many of my clients just see me 3 or 4 times because we're so efficient that way. I'm making the most of my time. The client's making the most of his or her time and her money. And so this efficiency thing, and it's fun. It's exciting to be making progress. I've spoken to many counselors and therapists who say they have a hard time staying awake listening to clients drone on. I will, by the way, also interrupt as appropriate. I will decide, is it worth my interrupting or letting them continue? That again is efficient. It's this thing. It's key to getting things done. And again, I'm not saying you should be doing all these things. I'm just saying these are things that I do. I'm going to ask you now, is there anything in what I just said that suggests something you might want to do to be more efficient, whether it's regarding your morning or evening routine, how you prepare your meals, what you do with your clients or your coworkers or whatever project you're doing? Okay, next. I am aware of my strengths and limitations. I can write relatively expeditiously, so I can write, and also I can feel like I can do these YouTube things these podcasts or YouTube videos expeditiously without inordinate preparation or stress. And so I do those, but I also am aware of my limitations. I am very bad at fixing anything. So if it's anything that's more complicated than, say, changing the toilet paper roll, I'm being only a little facetious, a little exaggerating here, I am quick to call the guy. I will go, again, in an efficient way, I will go to Yelp. I will look at who the top-rated people are who have lots of ratings. I won't look at the sponsored ratings because usually if they're sponsored, they need more business. I'm not interested particularly in those. I will look at the unsponsored ones, look at people who have 4.5 stars or 5 stars and have lots of ratings, at least 20. And I will simply call 1 or 2. I'll leave voicemails, and voila, I've got my plumber, I've got my carpenter, my electrician, whatever I need to fix whatever it needs to be done. Highly efficient. It's a way of my getting stuff done. Okay, I should take a break. Those of you who are watching me on YouTube, you may or may not know that this is I use this as the basis for a podcast, which you should be able to find on, if you Google How to Do Life, Marty Nemko, Simplecast, you can find it there. And I need to take a 15-second break or so in order for the announcer to do her thing. So after I come back, I'm going to be talking about sponge activities. I'm going to be talking about awareness of pointer diminishing returns. I'm going to talk about some more ways to multitask without hurting quality. I'm going to talk about the use of a Memo Cube and how to avoid having to put things on a to-do list. Anyway, I hope you'll stay with me. Okay, thank you for staying with me. We're talking about how to get stuff done. I'm sharing primarily from a personal perspective what works for me, but I'm also mindful that you certainly are not going to do everything the way I want to, and so I'm trying to intersperse by asking you questions about what will help you to get more stuff done. So I made a brief allusion to micro breaks, which has been very key to my getting stuff done. I gave one example, which was that I will spend 30 seconds, take a 30-second break from whatever I'm doing to get on the floor with my hachi and give them a belly rub. I'm very aware that many breaks can go from micro breaks to long breaks, and I really am sensitive to that because you reach a point of diminishing returns quite quickly on the benefits, the rejuvenating benefits of a break. Within 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I will often take micro breaks that are I will take a few minute break to clean the toilets, to take a walk around the block with the dog, to get dressed, to do a little weeding. I do believe that the new rule that you should get up once an hour is good. They say sitting is the new smoking. So yes, I make a point, not routinely every hour, but when I start to feel itchy, I do make myself get up and allow myself to get up. I say, you deserve this. And I'll take a 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute break. Sometimes I'll simply get up, stretch, and take one deep breath. And that is enough to reach me to the point of diminishing returns where additional time isn't going to yield that much more benefit, and I'd rather get stuff done. Sponge activities. We all spend much time having to wait. I never mind waiting at Trader Joe's because with COVID they capacity control. So I often have to wait about 10 or 15 minutes outside to get into Trader Joe's. Well, I'm always thinking or listening to an audiobook or simply choosing to veg out, but I do it consciously. I decide if I want to be productive or veg out. I'm very time aware. I don't let time pass without consciously deciding I want to veg, I want to be productive, what do I want to do that's worthwhile. It's amazing how much time gets sponged up, and of course I have to drive 45 minutes each way to see my wife, to go home to see my wife, and I always have an audiobook on. Sometimes it is something to learn. I like to listen to biographies and learn about people from their biographies, but sometimes I just want to veg out, so I'll listen to a novel or I'll listen to music. But I am really, again, conscious of that hour and a half every day that could be frittered or getting frustrated at traffic or stupid drivers who race in and cut out. I can't tell you how many people in a Mustang or a Camaro or a Dodge Charger are zooming in and out at unbelievable speeds, and I'm a fast driver, but they're like 90-mile-an-hour types. I could get upset at them, but by listening to my audiobook, I don't care. Or if there's traffic. Now with COVID, there's a whole lot less traffic, but there's an accident, there could be significant traffic. I care a lot less, about it if I'm listening to an audiobook. So that's a great example of multitasking. Or I gave the example before about going to Trader Joe's with Hachi, my dog, hiking, and he goes on empty. I do my shopping and I bring something to think about. But another example that's that sponge activity that I do is when I'm in the shower. Sometimes I just want to veg out and enjoy the warm water on me and the pleasures of the shower, the sensory pleasures of the shower. But there's sometimes I recognize that when you're in the shower, there's no distractions, and the warm water improves circulation in the brain for all of us. So, I may be doing some of my best thinking in the shower. So I very often will think about an upcoming client or a problem or an article or a YouTube video I'm going to do or whatever while I'm in the shower. And I keep a little memo cube right next to the shower. So if I have an idea, rather than make myself have to remember it, I clear my brain and write it down so I'm free to think about the next thing. Again, I'm not asking you to do it my way, but I'm going to ask you now, what would be a way that you could, where are your sponge times? Do you have to, unfortunately, go to the doctor a lot and have to sit in the waiting room for a long time? Where are your times when you could be pleasantly or productively multitasking? Okay. Another tip. In terms of time, I talked about, my awareness of what to offload in terms of that I'm so bad at fixing stuff. But one thing I particularly want to point your attention to in terms of offloading is overparenting. Are you overparenting your child, supervising too much, monitoring too much? It's not to your advantage, and it often is not to the kid's advantage, and can lead to too much confrontation, too much lack of self-efficacy that the kid develops. So, maybe you want to offload the supervision of parenting to the child's self-care, or, to a high-quality child care person if you can find them, or making a deal with a parent of a friend that you'll share whatever driving has to be done with the child, driving the child around. I know there's a lot less of that, obviously, COVID in certain areas, but there's still a certain amount of that. Now, finally, I want to talk about the Memo Cube, something I use all the time. This is now a little bit worn down, but this is what it is. It starts out 3 inches tall. I have to. I'm old school in the way I've chosen to do my calendaring. If it's something that is to be calendared, I have this. For my scheduled meetings, but for things that don't have a specific time, but I want to do that day or the next day, either that day or the next day, I have this this little memo cube that I look at all day. I keep it. It gets prime real estate on my desk. It's right in front of me, and I keep revising. I cross things out, and when it's looking messy and it's too much, or I want to revise it, I simply redo it. And, I find that is a very helpful tool for getting stuff done. Okay. So, brief summary. Okay. We've been talking about getting stuff more done. Why done? Why do I do it? Because it feels good to get stuff done. Makes me feel worthwhile, even though in the larger scheme of things it may not be that important. I find it fun to see how efficient I can be, and I treat it like a game. In terms of the techniques I use, I make, maybe most important, it's not negotiable, so I don't have to make a choice whether I'm going to do the thing I'm supposed to do or not. Even though some things I don't like having to do my taxes or clean the toilets, it's just not a negotiable thing. I don't make it a choice. That helps. Another benefit of, doing it, if you're staying busy, you're distracted from your malaise, whatever you're worried about, which is very helpful. While I try to be efficient most times, I'm consciously decide when I don't want to be, whether it be a micro break or a longer break. For example, being each night in the cocoon with my wife. But I am efficient all the time with regard to how I and I keep ever improving my routines for the morning routine, my meal prep routines, choosing how to eat well and yet very quick, simply preparing simply. With my clients, I won't go through the details, but whatever your work is, think about what you could do to be more efficient. My examples of I'll just briefly remind you, that new client questionnaire that I send in advance, the Optometry Game that I play, the lawyer game, the Vegas game. And I'm using Google all the time to find efficient solutions to things, technical solutions, how-to solutions, how to fix a toilet run. And if I can't fix it in 20 seconds, then I'm going to call the person. I'm finding them on Yelp or whatever. Micro breaks, talk about the importance of avoiding micro breaks turning into long breaks, let alone, I avoid the major time sucks like watching lots of TV or playing golf or whatever. For example, I'm not going to watch I'll watch probably the last quarter of the Super Bowl, and that's it. Constantly being aware of the point of diminishing returns, whether it be in terms of how much effort to do on a project or how much benefit you get out of a break. Excuse me. Micro breaks, keeping your breaks short, are really helpful. Multitasking gets a bad name. I find that I give you the examples of my hikes with Hachi to Trader Joe's, listening to audiobooks in the car, having a notepad next to my shower, and doing I always bring sometimes bring a thorny problem to think about. I recognize my weaknesses, which are, for example, in fixing things, so I will very quickly offload that to somebody. And something I don't remember if I said it or not, but I had tried to avoid I don't think I did. I try to avoid putting things on this list. If it normally takes a minute or less, like answering an email or something little, I usually do it right then and there. If it's even something important or something not, like for example, I took a hike today and I saw this tree called Acer Autumn Glory. It's a maple, and I was curious about it. So it would take me less than a minute to Google it. I Googled it, I saw what it's going to look like, and now I can look forward to what it's going to look like in the spring and fall. So if it takes less than a minute, I don't put it on my to-do list. I always make a point of doing it. And that's about it. In any case, if you're watching this on YouTube rather than going to the How to Life Simplecast or podcast, I do welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact, and I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. And in any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.